You know, I always said if you want something to happen, you've got to put yourself into the space where something could happen.
Mm.
And that's what people don't do. They never put themselves into the space where something could happen. And maybe 9 times out of 10 it doesn't happen. But it's the 10th time that is, oh, okay, it changes your whole, you know, this is called a paradigm shift for a reason. So you might want to come from that angle too. So, well, you know, like when I was starting out, I didn't have, I think the concept of mentor is kind of sort of newish. You know, personal coaches weren't all that. No, we're talking about, you know, 30 odd years ago, I suppose. So, and then, you know, the affordability, even if there was one, you know, there's no way. So I found my, you know, access to other people's minds in books, which is basically saying you've got to put yourself in a space where if something can happen, it could happen. Not necessarily will happen, but it could. You've got to put yourself in that space.
So for me personally, like reading books has been absolutely important to self-development and picking up new things that turn into something in personal or in business life. But what I found to be the challenge with books is it's a one-way communication in that if there's something sticking out in the book, I want clarification on it.
I agree.
Yes.
You can't ask a book a question. That was my biggest frustration.
The second thing that I found to be the other issue, at least with a lot of people that I've coached as well, they tend to pick books based on what they think they need now. At least personally, I found the best lessons, the things that have taken me to new stratospheres in business, have always come from conversations that I wasn't even expecting to have in the first place. Like, I wasn't even expecting to get lessons around how to market, how to acquire customers from competitors' businesses and so forth. Those were conversations that came being in the field, being next to people that were at a different level of performance. And so for me, I think one of the benefits of having the opportunity to be in a community, in a challenge, in a space where you're next to people such as yourself, is you allow yourself to be in the opportunity, in the sphere where something could come up. One line, one question, one lesson.
You know, that opens up a whole sort of frontier of experiences and thinking. I mean, I don't know who said it, but I think somebody said something along the lines of, the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions.
Funny enough, the quality of your outputs from AI is also
well, there you go.
determined by the quality of your questions.
The quality of the questions. And so if you're saying that some of those, you know, life breakthrough type ideas came from casual conversations, they only come because you've actually read a lot, and now you can actually either formulate the question to ask or appreciate the concept that has been shared. And that doesn't happen for most people. Most people, you can tell them exactly what to do and how to do it and when to do it, but they don't have the mental hooks to, you know, to grasp that concept or to grasp that, you know, secret sauce thing, because their mind is focused on how can I shortcut this, or how can I make it quicker, or how can I do this thing faster. Well, they can't, because they've never done it before. They can't actually do it faster. You know, so they miss the whole point of, no, the quality of your lifestyle is reflected in the quality of your question. The more, you know, there's this thing, especially, I think it was more, I don't know whether, you know, I'm sort of showing my age here, but it was always sort of part of the conversations you had with people. People were often described as, oh, you know, he or she is widely read. And that's because they can really jump around with concepts and you know, ideas and intuitions and insights and stuff like that, simply because they could little bit, oh, okay, then make a completely new thing out of it. And one of the things about that sort of being widely read is that you can, you know, play with so many different parts of the jigsaw puzzle and make a different picture. It's not an always this picture. And part of the social conditioning of people, it's an always this picture. You can only fit these pieces together, you know, to form this picture, which is, you know, cultural conditioning, cultural engineering. So they never put themselves in the position of something that challenges their frame of reference. And when I say challenge, I don't mean to make it wrong. I mean a challenge so that it can expand. You know, I'm always reminded of Mark Twain saying, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And so if you say, okay, what does that statement or what does that observation actually mean? What we know for sure but just ain't so. So that means that, you know, you're walking around, most people are walking around with this model of the world. They want this from it, but that model of the world can't achieve it. And so they get frustrated and they get angry and they get disappointed and they get depressed and they get whatever they get. You know, Buckminster Fuller says it's pointless arguing with the existing reality. Build a new model that makes the existing reality obsolete.
Mm.
And so that's what you do. Widely read, then you insert yourself into conversations or in environments where if something can happen, it will happen.
Absolutely agree. So Paul, if there was just one key thing that either somebody could work on their business, work on themselves, or otherwise look to get or acquire in a 3-day time frame that would take their business to the next stratosphere, what do you think that would be?
It always gets back to communication.
Mm.
And so we can call communication many different things. We could call it copywriting, we could call it marketing, we could call it influence, we could call it persuasion, we could call it, but then how does true communication literally take place? And it takes place through a connection with another human being.
Mm.
And so making a genuine connection with somebody who can benefit from whatever it is that you're offering.
Sure.
That's the biggest mistake that most people make. They all just want to speak and they all want to yell and scream and it's almost like get the megaphone out there, buy from me, buy. They don't actually connect. And so if you think about, we have so many distractions going on around us every single day, especially with the amount of media and the amount of exposure we have to lots of people's opinions and but there's really basically no communication thing going on. So it would be to connect. And then once you've got the ability to connect, straight in the eyeball, heart to heart, especially with, particular segments of the audience who can, intuitively sense that a lack of genuineness. This person's just trying to sell me something, So your ability to connect and then have that form of communication that is to the benefit of the other person, not to your benefit. You may benefit out of it ultimately, but it's to benefit the other person.
I think it's one of the lessons you actually gave to me that helped me a lot in the business is the best way to actually show somebody that you can be of value to them is to act like the best way you can show somebody that you can help them is to actually help them in the first place. And
even if you just think about that concept, the best way to help somebody is to actually help them. That requires, for most people, a switch in thinking. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that way.
So again, where's the connection? If you're not perceived as somebody that is a genuine, people have this sixth sense. There's a brain down in our solar plexus. I forget the actual name that they give it, but basically it communicates to the heart, and then the heart communicates to the head. And so, okay, but it can really sense if somebody is authentic, or if somebody is a straight shooter, or if somebody is genuine, and somebody is, somebody really connects because there's that sort of, heart to heart thing going on, and it happens through all of our other senses. But kind of the registers down here first. If you can understand that, people who you can support in any which way that you can, whatever your skill sets are, whatever your services are, whatever your professional products, whatever, you've always got to think about they've got either a want or a need that they can't satisfy by themselves in some way, shape or form. And that's a genuine need and a genuine, want. If you tell people, let's say that you've got some sort of secret sauce and you give that away, very few people will be able to take that idea and then run with it. And the reason why we know that is because research after research after research after research says that there's only a minority of people that can actually go and research an idea and then develop that idea into something that, has an ongoing benefit. So they're the absolute minority. They're not people who are looking for your solution. The people who are looking for your solution are the people that aren't necessarily, for whatever reason, that way orientated. So they want you to share it with them. But there's a human interaction going on there. You've got to be genuine. You've got to have that great sense of connection. Otherwise, they just go they pass you. You miss your opportunity you trigger some form of resistance because you haven't really truly connected. So give away your best stuff. Let them know that you have more. They will want the more.
Yes.
If you genuinely connect.
And then the rest is really just about systemizing the messaging out, the communication out, so that it's, instead of one-on-one, it's one-to-many.
Well, that systemizing is now about, running a profitable business, if you like. And then that involves all those other forms of communication. influence and persuasion, or how do you influence? How does persuasion work? Does persuasion work because I'm persuading you, or does persuasion work because I'm saying something and you are persuading yourself?
Mm.
And I'm just, arranging some words and some thoughts and some emotions so that you can benefit from that internal, oh, okay, something's going on here. I think I want to listen more here. And then, copy and marketing is the development of skills that allow you to achieve. And then, I think of Einstein when he said, the value of achievement is in achieving. Most people want achievement, but they don't do the achieving, which is the skill set of it, isn't it? It's learning the skills.
Yes. One of the questions though is how do you impart experiences like that when you're not physically next to each other, but only connected online, for example?
The way that I do it
Mm.
is, so if you think about the challenge for most people is their conditioned model of the world. And so they can only see whatever they see, they can only feel whatever they feel through that model of the world, through that frame of reference. Okay. And so the successes they want can't happen through that model, because if it could, they would already be there.
Yeah. They would already get what they want.
So that model or that frame of reference or that model of the world or that map of, their internal map, their external map, their environment, it doesn't facilitate that thing over there. So, okay, how is that model of the world built up? Well, it's from people's past experiences. It's from their past learnings, from their past teachings, from their past conditioning and the social engineering and the schooling and all of that sort of stuff. And what everybody else is doing around them. And everybody is pretty much doing the same thing. It's only the few that are doing something different. So while they want something different, they're trying to do it through this model. It can't happen.
It's kind of like how coaches and consultants, most of them have the same sort of pattern of either approaching cold leads, DMing them on social media, and whatever the method is that is currently used to get clients. People expect to make way more money doing the same things that they've been doing months before and thinking, oh, it's just about working harder, doing more hours, doing more numbers, without realizing that there's actually a totally different way of approaching the same problem to actually get a lot more results.
Well, again, you're saying a similar thing. It's we've got this frame of reference.
Yes.
And if it could happen, it would have already happened.
Yes.
So let's not keep banging away at the same frame of reference. So, okay, so I think your question was, how do I do it? So my understanding is that unless I can help you change your frame of reference, and how might I do that? Well, for me, it's about giving people really, really important information, content, and I call them memory hooks. So I can deliver some content on the subject that you may not be familiar with or that you've never even heard of. And that's okay. I don't expect you to understand it. But if I'm going to work with you and attempt to open up avenues for you to be more successful, I've got to give what I call memory hooks to something that is a frame of reference over there, so that eventually you can move from this frame of reference to that frame of reference. And Thomas Kuhn said that's a paradigm shift. And he coined the term back in, I think it was the 1960s. And if you think about a paradigm shift, it's a paradigm. So a paradigm is a frame of reference. It's a model. It's a model of thinking. It's a model of feeling. It's a model of behavior. It's a model of expectations. It's a model of past experiences. But see, that the success one is over here, or the success that you want is from this paradigm. It can't actually happen out of this paradigm. And so how long is it going to take you to transition from that paradigm to that paradigm? And so a paradigm shift happens really, really quickly. It can happen in a nanosecond. Anytime you've gone, oh, duh, or aha, or finally, that shift is a real big breakthrough. But how long does it take you to build up to that? And so what you've got to constantly a paradigm shifts when you get information that doesn't agree with this paradigm. So, man will never fly. The 4-minute mile will never be beaten. The 4-minute barrier will never be achieved. In strongman competitions, they're saying 505 kilo deadlift will never be achieved. And yet there's one person that's set out and he's got a target in mind and he's got a time in mind and he's going to break that, currently sits at 500 or 501, depending on whatever. But that flying, it build up this information, build up this, and it creates a tension. Hang on, that information there doesn't gel with this paradigm. And if you keep going, eventually there's so much thing over here, so much content, so much weight, so much knowledge, so much information, it just doesn't equate anymore. And then it all suddenly falls into place. That's the paradigm shift. And so for me, I build memory hooks, or at least I attempt to build memory hooks. Give those people, it's not easy, because if you want a soothsayer, if you want something that's short, quick, fast, and I'm not the person. But it's about changing, the paradigms, or actually changing the frame of reference that they're using.
I think
to get that, you've got to get more.
I think most coaches and trainers would agree that the best outcomes do require a bit of work from the client side as well. You saying all that kind of makes me think about something as simple as, when I first started doing Pilates, for example, in yoga, one of the key concepts was to engage your pelvic floor, which is this band of muscle near your pelvis area. And the first time I was taught to do that, I just couldn't get it activated at all because the neural pathways, thank you. My brain hadn't
communicating.
Yes, correct.
Gets back to communication, doesn't it? Connection.
Yes. Connection.
Connection to unification.
And so it required being introduced to that whole concept and then having that visual of what is it actually like. Oh, it's kind of like holding your pee and holding your poo at the same time. And that little tension, that activates your pelvic floor. And then once that concept came in, the first time I tried to activate my pelvic floor, it didn't work at all. Or at least I struggled to get it corrected. But after several days and attempts at it, eventually I understand, so that's what a pelvic floor looks like. And the result is better posture, better core, better ability to do other progressions and other exercises. And it's kind of like that in business as well, and in really anything in life, really. To get the result that you wanted means you have to develop that connection that wasn't there in the first place, or you weren't aware of the connection.
Again, that's what learning is, isn't it?
Yes.
It's progressing from the known to the unknown. And, how does an individual achieve that? They've got to have a strong sense of themselves as an achiever. They've got to have a strong belief in themselves as an achiever, as somebody who can make possibility happen, not possibility happen to them. If you've got that drive to want to know more, if you've got that hunger and that thirst to want to know more, if you've got frame of reference that says whatever you want, you can actually have, because if you can see another human being, achieving it or experiencing it, therefore you can. Now, you might not be able to run as fast as Usain Bolt or as be a strong person, but you can have a quality of existence that is so much better than, or so much more different than the quality of experience you have now, simply by learning. And to have that learning, we've got to have that connection with yourself that says, well, look, I'm not completely satisfied by my frame of reference. I'm not completely happy on my model of the world. I wish there were things in this that were different. The possibilities for change are always there. And everybody can change if they have enough belief in themselves to enact the processes for change to happen. Wishing and inaction isn't going to make that change. It's not going to enact that change.
Well, Paul, thank you for your insights. I can't wait to spend a little bit more time with you and the people who join this challenge.